So welcome everybody, and a special welcome. I got a big surprise. My granddaughter showed up tonight, first time. She came all the way from Lakewood. Wow. Hope everybody enjoyed Shavuos, and they had plenty of cheesecake, and plenty of blintzes, and plenty of spirituality, and it's a good combination. The good food, and good Torah, and God gave us a big portion of Torah over Shavuos, filled us up with Kedusha, with Tahara, with Kedusha, with holiness, with purity. We're different people now. After such a Yom Tov like Shavuos, we're different people. And the Shema became much more high, holy, pure, way up there. Now we have to use it to serve Hashem more and more, now that He made us so special with the holy holiday of Shavuos. We are currently discussing with the Holy Sefer Chavetz Chaim the laws of Lashon Hara. And we're discussing now the people listening, just like we talked about all the time. People talking Lashon Hara with the Isser. We're prohibited to speak Lashon Hara. We're prohibited to hear Lashon Hara, and certainly to believe Lashon Hara. That's really bad. We can't even hear it. To believe it is really bad. And this Issa prohibition goes on all the things that we're not allowed to say, we're not allowed to believe. If we hear something about somebody, he did this, he did that, she did it, she did that. Gossip, probably it's not true, like most things are not true. People exaggerate, people don't understand, people judge without having in mind the person that they're judging. And most of the time we get false information. We judge people in the bad light, others judge them in the bad light and give over the information to us, including to say, oh, maybe you're a tzaddik, but you know what your father was. Oh boy, was he a ganef? Was he a terrible person? Your grandfather, you shall know what your grandfather was. To say it makes a person very upset, makes it feel bad. Or you're a big tzaddik now, but remember you were 10 years ago, you weren't such a tzaddik then, remember? And to tell other people that, tell them you think he's such a great person, tell other people these things. He doesn't come from such a great pedigree, from such a great family, himself was not so great. These are all things of Lashon Hara. We're not allowed to listen to it, certainly not believe it. We have to look at the person for what he is. His parents were, his grandparents were, it doesn't make much difference. The main thing is when a person comes to God in the future, and God will say to a person, were you righteous or not righteous? We don't care what your father was, what your mother was, what your grandparents were. What were you? That's what's important. Hi. Hello. What's important is what you were. Where you come from, God will talk to them. They have to have their own judgment with God. But we have to look at ourselves. And what were you now? What you were then doesn't make much difference what you were then. But now you became a righteous person, you're a good person. You used to be stingy, and now you're benevolent, and now you're easygoing with your money to give charity. So forget about what was then. We go according to what's now. And we said before, speaking of Lashon Hara includes saying something negative about somebody, even somebody that they can't help. It's not their fault. Certainly to say somebody did something wrong is Lashon Hara, but to say somebody, he's not smart, he doesn't have a very high IQ. Person feels bad, people speak about him like that. Therefore it's also in the rule of Lashon Hara to speak it and to hear it. If we hear such a thing, don't believe it, they don't know. Maybe the person saying he's not so smart. They can understand what the other guy is saying. They think he's not smart. A lot of times people listen to somebody else and the other person way above their intellect, and they think, what's he saying? The problem is the listener, not the sayer. They don't understand what he's saying. He's very smart. He's way above the level of being bright and intellect. And they're the ones who have the problem. But they think the problem is by the other one. You never know. To say he's a weakling, doesn't have any stamina, he schleps around, that's considered Lashon Hara. A person will feel bad. Anything that a person will feel bad being said about him is Lashon Hara. We're not allowed to say it, not allowed to believe it, not allowed to listen to it. Imagine if we keep all these rules. Everybody would keep these rules. What a great nation it would be. People would be happy. People would be friendly. If we kept all these rules the way we're talking about now. You don't speak bad about anybody. You don't believe anything bad about anybody. Everybody's good. Whatever they can do, they do. They're not trying to do anything bad to anybody. We look at everybody with a good eye, not an evil eye. What a different world it would be if we kept these laws strictly. Everything would be so nice and friendly and upbeat. Even though they're hard to keep, but they're worth it. Okay, then we have to go into the question, if somebody listened or believed Lashon Hara that he heard, how do you do tshuva for that? We spoke about before, if we speak Lashon Hara, chas v'sholem, how we do tshuva for that. And the way to do that, we said, was to try to go to the person we spoke Lashon Hara to and try to change his opinion. So, oh, he made a mistake. We thought he did this and this, but he really didn't do it. I thought he did it, but it really is something else. To get around having to ask the person mechila. If you do something against somebody else, you have to ask him forgiveness. So go and ask him, I spoke bad about you. It's very hard to do tshuva on that, to ask forgiveness. Because you're ashamed to tell somebody that spoke bad about you. So if you get out of that by reversing the person's idea about the person we spoke about. We go back and tell them that we made a mistake, it's not true. If we're able to be successful, so then we don't have to ask mechila anymore, to forgiveness from the person we spoke about, if we able to take away the problem. So how about a person who listened to Lashon Hara, how does he do tshuva? That we'll talk about next time. So right now, we are in the middle of the topic that we spoke about 2 weeks ago, before Shavuos. What would happen to the world if the Jewish people did not accept the Torah on Mount Sinai? What would happen to the world? So we said, from very prominent and respectful sources, that the world wouldn't exist. Contrary to people's idea of what Torah is the purpose of creation. And if the Jewish people would not accept the Torah on Mount Sinai, the world would just turn back into the way it was before creation. A big void, nothing. And there would be a total emptiness in the world. There wouldn't be any people anymore, there wouldn't be animals, there wouldn't be anything. Because the Torah is the purpose of creation. The purpose doesn't exist, then the creation doesn't exist. So we gave one reason for that last time. Remember that we talked about that that's the whole purpose of the world, for people to go to the world to come. And this world is a preparation for the world to come. So if you don't have the preparation, there's no purpose for the world to exist. But I told you that time there's a much deeper idea over here, which we didn't have a chance to speak about last time. It's not a simple concept. Try to concentrate. I'll try to explain it the best I can. If you'll be able to grasp it, I think you'll be able to have a very good feeling about it, to understand this concept. We have a very important general rule. Number 5, Istakel Baraisa Bara Alma. God looked into the world and looked into the Torah. These are Aramaic words. Istakel ba'araisa. Araisa in Aramaic means the Torah. And he created the world. Now we have a number one to bolster our idea that we talked about. We say in our prayers every night, the Ma'ariv prayer, Kihem chayenu v'ayruch yameinu. The words of Torah are our life and our long days for the world to come. The Torah gives us life, Torah in the mitzvahs, learning the Torah and fulfilling the mitzvahs, the commands of the Torah. That is our life in this world and the world to come. Therefore, number two, therefore we'll study them day and night. Some people literally learn Torah day and night. If you go into yeshivas around the world, the yeshiva is the lifeblood of the Jewish nation. Those who sit and learn Torah day and night, that's what gives us life. They adhere to this literally. They study Torah day and night. If you go into any yeshiva, Staten Island, we have a lot of yeshivas. We have all over the world yeshivas. More and more. If you go up the thruway, all the little towns over there, every town has a yeshiva, has a kollel. You have young men sitting and learning day and night, spreading more Torah around the world. You have in every day in Monsey and in Passaic and all the towns are up the thruway. What are the other towns over there? What? Deal, yeah, you have Deal, you have, what other cities that's going up the thruway? Staten Island, yeah, we're starting from here. Up the thruway, going up to Garden State Park, all those cities over there, Elizabeth, every town over there has a yeshiva now. Torah is spreading around the world. Out. Of course, yeah, that's by Slotsburg, yeah. Well, that's a place to pray. It's not a yeshiva there yet. It probably will be one of these days. On the way, sure, you have all the cities on the way up to Oorah. They have yeshivas. That is the lifeblood of the Jewish people. People learning day and night. But those people who are not able to learn day and night because they have to make a livelihood, at least a little bit in the day should learn, a little bit at night they should learn, even if they can't learn the whole time. And we say, if not, we brought from the great sources, if the Torah would be void for 1 second without the study of Torah around the whole world, the Torah world will turn back into Torah Bavoy, we mentioned before. There has to be the study of Torah. Since it was given in Mount Sinai, for the world to exist, there must be study of Torah every second. Otherwise, the Torah will turn back into Torah Bavoy. Now, we want to explain that in this deep way. Stakel Barai, so we said number 5, God looked into the Torah and created the world. Now this concept we mentioned before, that people make a mistake when it comes to the laws of the Torah. They think the world was here and the Torah have and gave commandments according to the situation of the world. I will give an example. Since there's such a thing as a father and a mother who give birth to children, therefore the Torah says, honor your parents. God looks into the world and saw, well, there's parents and there's children. It's only right. Parents should recognize what the parents did for them, brought them into the world. So honor your parents. But that's totally wrong. Totally wrong. There is a concept. There are ideas, we'll call them God's thoughts, for the lack of a better word, that we can't understand God, so we have to use our mundane, down-to-earth words and explanations. God has thoughts and ideas. God has certain sources and basis, certain truths that are abstract to us, but they are real in God's world, and those truths are way above our intellect. We cannot begin to understand, like the prophet Isaiah says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. We cannot understand God's thoughts. But all of these truths and all these axioms that are in God's world are really the mitzvahs of the Torah, commands of the Torah. In His world, in His understanding. These truths were brought down to our world. And God made a world in order for us to exercise and execute and do and fulfill these truths that are true by God. In other words, there's such a thing as a truth of a father and a mother, maybe not the same way we look at the father and the mother. There are objects that create other objects. On this world, it's a blood and flesh, a father and a mother, creating blood and flesh, a child. But in the higher spheres of abstract thinking, that truth is also a true fact. In that world, in God's world, which is totally abstract, I could give an example. It's a little difficult to go into. These are sort of Kabbalah type of ideas. Well, maybe we'll come to that a little later. But God looked into the Torah and created the world. He had this idea and this truth of honoring of one's father and mother in His world, and in order to fulfill that truth on this world, created the father and the mother in order to have children, in order for this idea to be done and exercised in this world. In other words, the world did not start from here, the Torah did not start from here, and the Torah was made. The world started from the Torah, and the world was made. In order to be able to fulfill these truths and ideas, God made a world in a world that we live in of mundane objects, earthly objects, physical objects, which we are able to fulfill those truths in our world of blood and flesh that are true in God's world, in His abstract world. Like I always give the idea of vapor, steam, water, and ice. They're all the same thing, H2O, but they take a different form. Ice is very touchable and grabbable. You can touch ice, you can grab it, you can move it. But that can turn into water, which is more abstract. It's not as pliable and able to grab a hold of like the ice itself, but to a certain extent you can. But then comes the steam, same thing, but that's really very more abstract. It's more difficult for us to handle and to touch and to use, something out of our grasp. But there's higher things than, but a person wants to make ice. What do you have to say? He has to get water. So you get water. He wants to make water, you got to get out of the H2, you got oxygen and hydrogen to put in. What happens if you want oxygen? You need that, you need oxygen and hydrogen. What do you do for that? So then it's more abstract. How do you get that? And so on and so forth, until it goes up to the most abstract idea possible. And that's what the mitzvahs of the Torah are. There's a mitzvah God told to tefillin in the morning. Puts the tefillin. How do you make tefillin? Out of animal hide. So God made animals in the world in order to make skin, in order to make leather, in order we should be able to fulfill this idea. Our rabbis tell us that God puts on tefillin also. The rabbi says God puts on tefillin. God puts on tefillin. So not tefillin that we put on, but the idea of tefillin, of what's written in the tefillin, and the whole 4 black boxes of tefillin, in our world takes one form, and his world takes a different form. But the same idea is there. Same idea is there. Except we have it in our world, and he has it in his world. And all the mitzvahs and laws of the Torah, stakel baraisa. God looked into the Torah and saw all of these ideas, these truths, these abstract ideas, and he wanted to put it in the mundane, earthly, physical world, and he created the world in order for all these principles, all these ideas should be able to be fulfilled in the world that we live in. So it's not that God started with this world and created the Torah around this world, that the animals would hide. They forget mitzvah tefillin, make leather straps and make leather boxes. Or the sheep that make wool, so therefore make tzitzis out of wool, because we have these things. No, that's not the opposite. There's a mitzvah of tzitzis, of wool, therefore God created sheep in order to be fulfilled the mitzvah of tzitzis. There's mitzvah of tefillin, you need leather. Therefore he created animals to take leather from them. So it starts from the higher spheres of abstract ideas and principles and truths, and little by little it comes down into our world of physical and mundane earthly life. So every mitzvah that's in the Torah gave purpose for everything in this world to exist. There's not one thing in this world that does not have a connection to a mitzvah, whether it's stone, whether it's cement, whether it's glass, whether it's animals, whether it's the moon, the sun. Every object, every creation in this world has to do with a mitzvah, which means have to do with something in the Torah. There's nothing that you could mention, whether it's gold or diamonds or lead, water. I already mentioned it. Fish. Everything in this world has to do with a mitzvah. Why? Because that's why it was created. Because it started, the whole world, God looked into the Torah and created the world. In order for the Torah to be fulfilled, he created the world to have all those objects which are necessary for those ideas and those truths to be performed and fulfilled in this world. So therefore there's nothing in the world that doesn't have a connection to a mitzvah. You understand what I'm saying? Or it's too abstract. Am I coming clear? You don't understand? No. What? It's okay. You shook your head no. I hope I explained it good enough. So therefore, if we say this, God looked into the Torah and created the world, so therefore, everything in the world is getting its life from above. God is giving into the world everything here. It's coming all the time. Yesh me'ayin. God created the world something from nothing. We don't know what that means. We can't do that. We are not in the power to create something from nothing. We create something from something. Anybody creates something today, it's go to the furniture. What's the furniture? Go to the factory. They take wood from the tree and cut it up, what they have to do, and they shape it, and they put it together, and get nails and glue, whatever, and they make something out of something. You cannot go to a factory and say to them, I want a couch. Hocus pocus. Here's a couch. Oh, come through. Oh, no such thing. There has to be something from something. You can't, every chair, every item in this room came from something, even though a lot of knowledge and wisdom was put into everything here with the lighting, with everything that we see, but it came from something. It didn't come from nothing. Therefore, possible, another interesting idea, therefore it's possible to create something today and walk away and it stays intact. What? The microphone's making noise? Well, yeah, Rabbi did it good. He fixed it in the back so he knows. So therefore, let's say a carpenter, now it's coming English. A carpenter will make a table. He'll take the wood and take nails and he'll knock the nails into the wood and make a table. He'll walk away and the table will survive. The table will exist. You don't have to stay the whole day knocking it. Otherwise, it walks away, it doesn't fall apart. Once he makes it, it's done, he can walk away from it. That's the creation of yesh mi yesh. We have on our number 3. Yesh mi yesh. God made the world something from nothing. Only God can do that. There's nothing there from before. And God yehi or. God said, let there be light. Where did it come from? From nothing. God said there should be water. Where did it come from? From nothing. God created something from nothing. That's yesh mi ayin. The difference between yesh mi yesh and yesh mi ayin, besides the fact itself, is that yesh mi ayin has to have a constant input of energy in order for it to exist. If you took that away for 1 second, it would disappear. Like my Rebbe used to give an example of a gas stove, the flame on the fire. The flame of a gas stove. It looks like the same flame, right? It's not the same flame. Every second it's a different flame. It's burning new gas. Not the same gas as before. Turn off the gas, flame disappears. Because you have to have a constant input of fuel for that flame to stay. And every second it's a new flame. Because a new gas, it looks like the same because it's burning all the time. It looks like the same thing. It's not the same thing. Every second is a new flame. Except we don't realize it unless we think about it. But it looks like the same flame, but it's not. That we know for sure not. You have to have, in order to burn, you have to have fuel to burn. New fuel every second. The same way God said, let there be light, let there be fish, let there be animals. There's a constant input into the creation of all these things. When we're looking around us now, it looks like the same wall. It's not the same wall. Every second it's a new wall. It's a new input, everything God's putting into it, because yesh mi ayin has to have an ongoing input into its existence. It can't stay by itself without an input. It will just it will disappear. Because if it came from nothing, it will turn to nothing, unless you have the same input that you had in the beginning. Yesh mi yesh, when we make something again, we're taking something and making something from that, so we can make it, walk away, and it'll stay, because we made something from something. So, now that we have that, also that idea, that the world is a constant new creation every second of existence. It's a new creation every second. And it's all coming down from God, from all these ideas that God's putting into the world, that all the commandments of the Torah should be able to be fulfilled. And one more idea that brings out our point. After Sinai, God said, till now I was the one giving the world its power to exist. I pumped into the world every second since the time of creation. I pumped into the world the energy for it to go on and to be alive, the world. From now on, God said, it's up to you. Now I gave you the Torah. I gave you the mitzvahs of the Torah. Now it's up to you. Of course, God's doing it, but through us, or doing it through Him, however you want to put it. We have to keep the world going by taking this Torah, which was the creation of the world, which is the basis for creation, which God's ideas and abstract ideas that came to the world, that gives the power for the world to exist. By us studying the Torah now, and studying those mitzvahs, the Torah is full of mitzvahs, all the commandments of the Torah, we are giving now into the world the power to exist. We are giving the influence, we are giving the energy through us. We make our study of the Torah have an effect on the abstract ideas of the Torah that are above, and they're coming down every second, creating every second the whole world. It's up to us to keep it going. No, it's God gave us the power to turn on the gas and keep it going. Keep pumping that gas into the flame. If you stop it, the flame's going to go out. And that's how we understand much deeper concept idea. If the world would be void of study of Torah for 1 second, the whole world would turn into nothing. Why? Because the world has to have constant power, constant input for it to exist. Because the yesh me'ayin. And that power comes from the ideas of all the mitzvahs, of God's abstract ideas. Those are all the mitzvahs that gave purpose and reason for the existence of everything in this world. And by our study of the Torah, which is the source of the whole power and energy of creation, which is the source of ever God's ideas, abstract ideas of these laws that are truths by Him, we, by studying, are giving the power for the existence of the world. And if that would stop for 1 second, it's like turning off the jet. You turn off the jet, no gas, no light, no fire. If we turned off 1 second, God's energy that He's putting into the world, which He left up to us to make sure that it happens, if that would be turned off for 1 minute, then the walls would not exist anymore. The building wouldn't exist anymore because they have to have a constant input. And once the Jewish people nobody would study Torah, and the Torah is the source of this energy through all the commands of the Torah, then the world would cease to exist. So it's not only what we said last week, and a more down-to-earth idea of why the world would not exist without the Torah, because there's no purpose for the world anymore, because God created the world in order for Torah to be accepted and studied and practiced. If without that there's no purpose for the world, now we're saying a much more deeper idea, the mechanics of it, how it works. And the mechanics is that every second of the world there has to be a constant input of energy for the world to exist. And that starts from God's truths, from God's abstract ideas. And those ideas are Torah thoughts. That's how the whole world exists, coming from those ideas that are put into our mundane world that we live in for us to go ahead and perform all those truths that God wants us to perform for our perfection. And if we have the power and the commandment and the holy obligation to keep the world going, for this power to keep this energy to keep into the world, and it's only through the study of Torah, which includes all the 613 commandments of the Torah, that the world can exist. It's the best I can do to explain it. I hope I explained it. I think I just go over it again, but I think I don't want to go too many times. So this is. It really took much longer than I thought it would. And again, we're not going to finish off for tonight. So who cares? We have plenty of time. We've got a lot of weeks left. Right to Hashem, we hope. God should give us life. But if we just got this concept, it's worthwhile. One evening to understand this concept. It's a very deep concept, and it's very important for us to realize. Not too many people realize this. I have over here Rabbi Kiva, have a famous, great tzaddik of all times, Rabbi Akiva. He lived in the time of the Romans, and the Romans made a decree for the Jews not to study the Torah. Like in Russia today, well, today things different. There wasn't any of that. All through the ages, there were all countries of the world Jews lived, and they made prohibition stopping Jews from studying Torah. Russia not long ago, caught you studying Torah, they stayed in Siberia. People went underground to study. They didn't want to stop studying the Torah. But in Rabbi Akiva's time, the time of the Romans, the same thing. History repeats itself. And they said, anybody says Torah will get the death penalty. So Rabbi Akiva didn't care, and he studied Torah. So students said to him, why are you putting your life in jeopardy studying the Torah? So we have the famous martial parable of Rabbi Akiva, of the fox walking along the side of the river, and he saw the fish running, swimming so quickly. So the fox asked the fish, why are you running away so fast, swimming so fast away? So he said, because the fishermen are running after us. They want to catch us. We're running away from the fishermen. So the fox said, I'll tell you a good idea. Give some good advice. Jump up over here on the ground, and they won't look for me. They'll look for me in the water. They won't look for me on the ground anymore. So you have nothing to worry about. You jump up on the dry land, and they'll keep running down the river. They won't look for you. They won't think you're here. So the fish said to the fox, you're supposed to be the smartest animal of all the animals. The fox, you're supposed to be smart. What kind of silly thing is that? If the place that we live, we're in danger. You want us to go a place where we can't live? We can't live on dry land. That's not a place we can live. Even where we're living, a place where we're able to exist, we're in danger. So you want to put us in a place that we can't even live? That's what Akiva said to them. You want me to stop studying Torah because it's dangerous? If we're in danger in the place we're studying the Torah, we're in danger. If we stop studying, for sure we're in danger. We can't survive without Torah. It's impossible. Just like it's like fish jumping out of water. How can the fish jump out of water? You can't live without the water. We can't. The Torah is like water. The Torah to the Jewish people, without water we can't live. We're saying that now because once we stop learning Torah, then you can't survive. The world can't survive. Nobody can survive. So he said to them, don't tell me to stop learning Torah and in order to survive. That's the advice to tell me that that's the end of everything. We don't study Torah. Then we for sure don't have a chance. Well, we covered this very important idea tonight. Next time, I hope that, let's go back to it tonight, still come to the questions. If we run out of questions, we'll go back to this tonight. But just to get your curiosity aroused for next week, want to make sure everybody comes back next week, we know that the Jewish people said the famous words, Nasev and Ishma. God asked them, do you want to accept the Torah? And they said, yes, Nasev and Ishma, we will do and we will listen. Didn't ask any questions. Yes, the nations of the world, they want to accept the Torah. They said, what's written in the Torah? They want to know what's written in the Jewish people said, no, we're not. Whatever you say, God, Nasev and Ishma. On the other hand, we have, that's in number 8. Number 7, number 6, God took the Mount Sinai and held it over them and said, if you take the Torah, good, and if not, the mountains fall down on you, and that's the end of it. Famous words, people. He took that Mount Sinai, ripped it up, held it over the head like a big barrel, and he said, if you don't take the Torah, it's going to fall down on you, you'll all be killed. The end of it. Of course, what's happening over here? People said, Nasev and Ishma. What's the problem? We're going to accept the Torah. What's God taking them Mount Sinai up and threatening them with their life? They don't need that. They don't have to be forced. I'm forcing you to take the God's saying. I'm forcing you. You can't say no. Who's saying no? They said yes. That's what we have to go into. So right now we'll go to our wonderful people. Have any questions or comments? And Rabbi Biderman looking online over there, seeing what he can come up with.
Lots of questions online this week.
Oh yeah. Okay.
First of all, I just want to announce to everybody here and everybody's watching online that Oorah is having a family Shabbaton next Shabbos at the Zone. I think it's May 30th through June 2nd. So we invite everybody to apply, especially those who haven't been at an Oorah weekend for a year.
Same thing if people have come on once a year, or this is open for everybody?
I was just in the middle of saying, priority is given to those who did not attend an Oorah weekend or Chana Yom Tov in the past year. You could reserve online you could apply online at oorah.org/apply. Should we start with a question in the room or a question online? We have some very thought-provoking questions this week online.
We have a question over here.
Rabbi, since we say the people gives the power. When we learn Torah, we give power.
Right.
So if we have places they learn more Torah, they can give more power than any other place?
Absolutely. The more the Jewish people study Torah, the more bracha v'atzlacha comes to the world. And the people that do it get a lot of reward because people are much more successful, they're much more healthy, because once God gives into the world this power to exist, the more that comes, the more of everything good. That's the source of goodness, and everything becomes better. And the more we do the Torah and the mitzvot, the more Hashem gives to us. He gives the power to the world to live and to blossom and to bloom into nicer things. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good point. Important point. We'll alternate. Huh? Okay.
Yeah, we're alternating. Whoops, sorry. Art Link would like to know.
Who would like to?
Somebody, Art Link.
Oh, it's a name. Oh, I see.
It's a name.
Okay.
Yes, that's the
Okay.
name. In view of recent events in Jerusalem, he feels that that the Orthodox community in Israel relegates women to a class of second-rate citizenry. There seems to be a similarity between the Jewish Orthodox view of the role of women and the Islamic view. Please comment. I think you've done that before, but...
I'm not sure exactly what the Islamic view is. They certainly took it from the Torah, but they might have misinterpreted it and not look at it the right way. So I can't comment on what the Islamic idea is. But as far as Torah thought is concerned, everybody in this world has their place in society. Kohanim, who are the priests, we call them, who served in the Holy Temple at the time of the existence of the temple, that they, duchen, even today, they go up in front of the shul, where you have 10 men, and they give a blessing, whether Sephardim do it every day, Ashkenazim do it on the holidays. That's their special privilege and their duty. And they have special laws that apply to them. Leviim have special laws applied to them. Israelim have laws applied to us, not to the nations of the world. Men have their obligations, women have their obligations, and kings have their obligations. The king could be from any shade, any Kohanim and Leviim have to come from the certain family of Levi. The king could come from any of the Shvatim, any of the tribes, any of the branches of Judah. They come from Reuven, from Shimon, but the house of David is the one that was designated to have the kings ultimately come from that Shevet of Yehuda. The first king was from King Shaul, was not from Yehuda. So they have their obligations, the tribe of Yehuda, to produce kings. Everybody has their obligation and their place in Judaism. Men, women, Kohanim, Leviim, and so on. So it's not that we put anybody down. We say that everybody has to fulfill their obligation. To that we become a great nation together. Everybody puts in their input, whatever we have. Every person has their own talent. Every private person in every shevet has their own talent and their own capability of producing something that nobody else can do. And they have an obligation to bring that out into the open and donate it to the Jewish nation. So women, I don't know what this person means exactly. We put them down. We don't put down women in any way. And opposite, we hold them in the high esteem. If we look back into history, the way that the world used to treat women was shameful until the Torah came along, and made sure that women's rights that we have in the Torah, that the Ksuv has to be written, the marriage contract, which has the obligations of husband to a wife, which is something to shine the world, the way they used to treat their wives before the Torah came along, and showed how we have to treat the women. So our wives and our daughters and they have their place in the world. They bring up the family. They have the childbearing capabilities, and they have to do what they have to do. So I don't know what this person means exactly. We put them down. Maybe he means in the shul that we put them behind the mechitza. Maybe he means that is, as far as that's concerned, in the Orthodox shul that we keep the women behind the mechitza. But that's not putting them down. That's only we're realizing the weaknesses of men and women, that they have attraction to one another, and therefore during the prayer to God that we want to concentrate and put our thoughts totally in our prayer, and not who's sitting next to us, and not that wife, and not that husband, and we're looking at them to distract us from our prayers. And therefore we separate men from women, which makes a lot of sense. Anybody thinks about it. Not we put anybody down, it's just we're making the prayer more able for us to concentrate and pray like we should. So I don't know what that person, he's very vague about what he meant about that we put down women, but we don't. Comes to the world to come, everybody who fulfilled their obligation will have a front seat in the world to come. And the women who did their obligation, the men did their obligation, the Kohen did their obligation, everybody did their obligation, made a wonderful, beautiful nation together, everybody putting what they have, and we'll always have a front seat in the world to come. Okay, we have a question over Rabbi. Oh, you have one.
Working?
Okay.
Okay. When you spoke about, I'm going back to the concepts that the abstract concepts,
Yes.
and you said that we only realize in this world that something has to come from something, and only God can create something from nothing.
Very good. I put very nicely. Okay, make me feel good. I see it. You got
Yes?
it good. Okay.
So this is something that I've thought about all my life,
Oh.
and what I came
You're a
to...
big philosopher, that means.
God exists. And if God exists, and God exists, God is something. We don't know what. So nothing, again, something cannot come from nothing. The something that is created by God has to come from God. Do you know what I'm saying?
So where did God come from? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not asking where God came from, because I don't think I know the answer is going to be impossible to know.
Well, he was always. He didn't come from anything. He was always there. So he
But
didn't come
what
from
was created, again, was from God, had to be part of God. Some part of God.
part of him or from him.
Something cannot be created from nothing. You said something cannot...
God can create something from nothing. God can. We
But
can.
God exists, therefore, there's something before what God created. Do you not understand what I'm saying?
Maybe you understand me, but I don't understand you. I don't know. What? No, I don't understand the question. I don't understand the question.
Is it part of God that made something, or what is it? What's the nature of existence?
Is you saying what we say?
Because your question was the nature of existence. Is
What?
it part of God?
That's right. And if we accept that God exists, then
Well, he
something
can create.
comes from something. I don't
No,
know.
it doesn't. It does not. No,
energy-
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying now. It comes from something God created. It means so. It comes from something. That's what you're saying. That's a different shayla altogether. In other words, if God created, it comes from something. But the idea is.
It has to come from God.
God
God
is-
created it, so God is something.
Right,
So
but
something can't come from nothing.
The
It's still-
concept means that the creation of God did not come from something that was there before. God did it.
Right.
God is the one who created it. He was there before, but the thing that was created is not coming from material that was there from before. That's what I'm saying. This table comes from something, It was before it was a tree, if it's wood and what it is, metal in the ground. They took up the metal from the ground, they cut down the tree, and they made it, and it was, the table came from the thing that existed before. The person who made it, we're not talking about the person who made it. We're talking about the thing that was made. What does that come from? So the table comes from something that existed before. God created something from nothing. He's the creator. But what did he create it from? We're not talking about the creator. Of course,
It has to come from him.
He did it, but he
Right.
took it from something that doesn't exist.
It has to exist, is what I'm saying.
No, he exists.
He exists, therefore, if he exists,
the
then the
creator
creation-
exists, but
Yes.
what he took it from doesn't exist. He did not take one thing from another thing.
If you think of it in terms of energy, spiritual energy,
He created whatever it was not there from before. He was there from before, but his creation was not taken from something that was there before. That's the idea. We create something that's here from something that was already here. We're not talking about the creator. The person who made it was here before, of course, but what's he creating it from? We're not going to the creator himself. The man who made the table, the carpenter who made the table, he's the creator of the table. But what did he create it from? He took something that was there from something that's there. God, who's the creator, took something that's there from something that's not there. That's the difference.
I don't know, B, tell me if I'm right, but if you're saying that God created it from himself, or is the creation separate? Oh, that's what I think she's saying.
Not from
But if the creation is separate from the creator, then he created it from nothing.
Yes.
Right, but if it's part of God, then the God is something.
I didn't go into, that's what Rabbi Mintz was talking about. That's a different idea. That's a different idea, which I'd rather not go into right now. But that was not the question. The question was, God was there from before, so something from something.
Right.
So I'm saying, no, God is not, we're not talking about the creator. We're talking about what the creator created it from. Created
Right.
from something from nothing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If the creation, what he created is separate from himself, then he's creating from nothing.
Yes.
But if it's
That's how we're looking at it.
That's how we're looking at it.
Yes.
But if it was from God, if it comes out of God,
I
it's part of Him.
I didn't say that.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm saying that we're seeing
Yeah.
it as the creation is separate from the
Yes,
Creator.
right.
Oh, okay.
Very good, sir. That's,
We have a big shout out to Jason Gutterman, who's watching from South Jersey.
hello, Jason. How you doing?
Okay, Jason wants to know, were the Ten Commandments brought down at night or in the daytime of Shavuos? Related to this, there was another question. Did the Jews get, on Shavuos, when they originally got the Torah, if it was the 6th or the 7th, did they get only the Ten Commandments on that day, or did they get all of the Torah on that day?
It was in daytime, that the Torah was given, not at nighttime, and they did get all the Torah at that time in a very abridged form. But later on, they got it in much more explanation during the 40 days in the desert. But all the mitzvahs were given very concisely on Mount Sinai, but they were much more understood and explained during the 40 years of the Jewish people in the desert afterwards. But they did have an idea of all the mitzvahs when the Torah was given. I hope that answers his question.
Anybody else in the room? Okay. Dear Rabbi, this comes from D. Binan. Dear Rabbi, in the wake
What
of the...
city? What city is from?
It doesn't say what city he's from.
Okay.
Dear Rabbi, in the wake of the terrible situation in Oklahoma, what can we as Jews do besides pray?
We're talking about the terrible twisters over there, right?
Yes.
Well, that's a very good question.
I would note that there are several organizations that are putting together money to help the people.
Well, that would be certainly a good idea to do, to help them if people need help, even though it might be non-Jews, but we are obligated to help our non-Jewish neighbors in the time of their crisis and time of their need. Like I mentioned a few weeks ago, we are obligated to visit the sick of the non-Jews and to bury the dead of the non-Jews and do everything we do for ourselves. But there's much more than that. We're told by our rabbis in the Talmud and the Gemara that whenever there is stress or strife or tzoros or pain around the world, it's for us to take it seriously and do tshuva. Because God's telling us, warning us, that there must be something wrong if He's bringing to the world unpleasant things happening. Because God is good, He wants to do good. If there's some things that are not good happening, that means He wants us to see, hear about it, and do tshuva, and look at our actions, no matter if it's a volcano in Australia, or it's a flood in China, or wherever it might be. God wants us to hear about it and to think to ourselves, why is God doing this? It must be because He's not happy with our actions, with our deeds, and therefore we have to think and try to, besides helping, we said before, and praying, but we have to better ourselves. Maybe we should pray to God more, or with more sincerity to pray to Him, or maybe give more charity than we're giving, or maybe keep Shabbos we should keep more, keep kosher more, whatever laws that God gives to the Jewish people. We have to look around and say, God's doing this for a reason, and we shouldn't say, for Him to do the tshuva, we have to do the tshuva. Very important idea.
Excuse me. Tom Parkinson asked the following question. I think it's going to need some explanation. Shalom, Rabbi. I would hope that you can give an opinion on the Society for Human... This is, the title is My Jewish Convictions. I would hope that you can give an opinion of the Society for Humanistic Judaism. Please be kind to others. Now, I don't know if you're acquainted with the Society for Humanistic Judaism, but let me read you something.
There's such a society?
They were founded in 1969. Their basic, I'll just read you a line from their website so that I could have them describe themselves in their own words. The Society's mission is to mobilize people to celebrate Jewish identity and culture consistent with a humanistic philosophy of life, independent of supernatural authority. From what I recall, in 1963, when Sherwin Wine first professed that he doesn't believe in God, it made the newspapers. So he founded this movement that does not believe in God.
This is a contradiction from itself. Some Jewish ideas without supernatural happenings, that's not Jewish. So they might call it Jewish, but it's not Jewish. Because we believe in a God, we believe supernatural, God is supernatural, God does miracles that are supernatural, so therefore this whatever society it is not Jewish. So I'll be very blunt about it. And it doesn't, Jewish people are Jewish because of the Torah that we have. Well, how are we Jews? Because of the Torah. Not because of the lax and bagels that we eat on Sunday, or the blintzes we eat on Shavuos, and they're very nice things, tradition. But that's not what makes us Jews. What makes us Jews is the Torah. And the Torah is supernatural, full of supernatural happenings. And therefore anybody says they want to be Jewish without supernatural, without the Torah, it's not Jewish. So with all due respect, that's a contradiction from within itself. It's impossible to be Jewish without supernatural. Any other questions from the floor?
Another online question from Art Link, who asked the question that we asked earlier. I'm not sure who he is. The Ten Commandments appear twice in the Torah, but the Torah has no redundancy, no wasted words. Please comment.
Well, there are a few differences between the first ones and the second ones. And like the most famous one is Zochar v'Shomer. Comes to Shabbos, that there is a Zochar Shabbos, the first luchas that we read about on Shavuos, and we read on Parshas Yisro every year. Zochar Shabbos, remember the day of Shabbos, make it holy. And the luchas that the Seres HaDibros, which we repeated in the first Seres HaDibros, in the second book of Moses, Exodus. Parsha of Yisro, that we have the first time 10 Commandments are stated. Then we have again in the fifth book, Parsha of Eschanon, again the Torah, again it talks about, it gives us the 10 Commandments. There is a Shamar, the day of Shabbos, to keep it holy, to watch doesn't say to remember, but to watch the day of Shabbos and keep it holy. So, and that's the most famous difference, but there are other differences too with the first and the second. So each one is gives us a reason to study and understand why the Torah changed it and what we're supposed to learn from it. These two things are simply, Zohar means that we have to, the positive things of Shabbos, to do, make Kiddush, and keep Shabbos in a day of pleasure and to enjoy it. Shomar means to watch, be careful not to do those forbidden acts of Shabbos. So one complements the other. One is Zohar to do the positive laws of Shabbos, and one is Shomar to keep the forbidden actions of Shabbos. So, and many other differences in the Seres HaDibros which need explanation, and we learn something from.
Okay, another online question from an anonymous questioner. My wife and I are trying, I'm not sure that this is really a philosophical question, but this is the question anyway. My wife and I are trying to maintain a wedding expense budget, but we heard that
a wedding expense budget?
A budget for their weddings, for their kids' weddings, I guess.
Kids' weddings, oh.
And they heard that other people go into debt to marry off their children. Why are there not firm rules on this important life cycle?
Why are there not firm rules?
Firm rules.
Firm
In other
rules.
words, I'm not sure, I guess beyond common sense, why aren't there halachas that mandate that people can't spend more than they could afford on things?
Well, I'll put it this way. To borrow money is not a terrible thing in itself, as long as you have a way to pay it back. If you can't, don't worry you're going to pay it back from, then you have no right to borrow. So those people, if they put themselves in debt to make a wedding for their children, then they should not make a big wedding. They should make a small wedding if they have no way to pay back. If they borrow the money now, and they expect, we're living in a very borrowing society today. Who doesn't borrow money today? Everybody has credit cards and so on. Of course, many people use them too much, and they can't crawl out of it after a while. It's a very dangerous society we live in today. People borrowing and credit cards and more, build it up. So easy to use a credit card. Paying it back is not as easy as using it in the first place. So my point is, we should not borrow money if we cannot pay it back. And if we can't make it for our children a big wedding, so we're making a small wedding, we cannot afford it. If we can have the money a lot, please don't have a cash flow. Even rich people borrow money a lot from the bank, and there's not considered anything wrong with it because they have what to back it up with, collateral to pay it back with. Or if somebody has a good job and they can pay back after a few months, whatever, they can pay back, so there's nothing wrong with borrowing the money. If you don't have to, you shouldn't, but if you know how, you'll pay it back. So if you want to make a nice wedding for your children, to make them feel good, and like everybody else is making a nice wedding, it shouldn't be elaborate, too much out of what everybody else is doing. But if you're able to afford it, and part of affording it means you can borrow money and pay it back, there's nothing wrong with that. But everybody has to own say laws to govern certain things. We don't have to make laws for everything. A lot of things the Torah wants us to do is use our intellect, use our seichel. What should we do and not do? We don't have to have a law for everything. We have enough laws in the Torah for us to keep. Certain things the Torah gives us a certain latitude for us to use our common sense and know that if it comes to spending money for Shabbos, for instance, or different things, and we're overdoing it and not able to pay back our debts, then we have to on our own limit what we're doing and limit our expenses using our common sense. That's all.
That wraps up the questions for tonight.
Okay. Any other questions
Unless
from our audience
room.
here? Comments, questions? Wow, exactly 9:30. We're pretty good. Nothing else? Okay. So look next week we're going to have to answer how come God had to force them to take the Torah if they expected it by themselves.
Thank you very much.
See you all next week. Mr. Hashem.